Thank you. Further debate, the member for Chatham-Kent-Leamington.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. You know, it's an honor and a privilege to be able to rise, in this legislature. I'm now in my 9th year sitting in this legislature, and it's been a true honor and a privilege to represent the people of Chatham-Kent, previously Essex, now Leamington. But Speaker, a couple of things that I wanted to point out. Back in 2018, you know what? That's almost 2 years ago, when we were all in this legislature pounding a beat and wondering on that identified day, will we be elected, or in some cases re-elected, to represent the people of our ridings? Well, Speaker, back in June, I was successful, and everyone in this legislature was successful back on June of 2018. We formed government. And we formed government with a purpose. We had a mandate. We ran on a mandate. All the other parties had their mandates as well. Perhaps some of the mandates overlapped. And of course, because of our various backgrounds and political affiliations, some of those mandates did not overlap. Made them very distinct, very, very clear. Earlier this morning, I listened intently to the member from Barrie Innisfil as she read, and it was lengthy, the motion that we initially started to debate this morning and earlier this afternoon, of which case then the official opposition brought forward an amendment to the motion being brought forward, of which we are addressing the amendment to the motion. And I looked at it and I thought to myself, the initial motion had us sitting on Tuesdays and Wednesdays in June, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays in July. I think 3 weeks, total of 9 days in July, and you can do the math. I think it was 6 days maybe in June. How many? 4 days? I guess I'm thinking the first week of June and then the other sittings. Regardless of that, now the amendment wants to add Thursdays to that particular motion, from what I'm hearing. And there's a whole bunch of other things they want to drop off in terms of committee hearings. I have concerns about that. I'm going to go back to 2018 when we formed government based on a mandate. We still have that mandate. And we're working hard for the people of Ontario. Yes, that means the people in our ridings, but it also means the people in your ridings, in the opposition as well. Because we're not just for progressive conservatives. We're for all Ontarians, which include your members. You have the NDP, of the Liberals, of the Green Party, independents as well. So when I think about that, and I try to look further, I think to myself, well, because of our mandate, we need to get things done. Now, the member from Guelph spoke about working together. Couldn't agree with him more. How do we do that? I, for one, am an individual that likes to lay partisanship aside, because we should all have the attitude in this legislature that we work for the better whole. We work for everyone. We will differ on our approach. We may differ with our ideas and concepts. That's a democratic process. Process. I think it's important for us to also realize, though, that we still need to get work done. Nobody knew, nobody planned, nobody had any idea of what COVID-19 was. And I've said to people back in my riding, we are involved in World War III. The only difference from other world wars is in this world war we cannot see our enemy. It's that virus. And so as a government, we didn't have a playbook to fall back on. We had to create a playbook. It wasn't just us, though. I mean, it was listening to other ideas that may have come forward from other members in this legislature, be it from the official opposition, from the Green Party, from the Independents, the Liberals, because we worked together on this. And I say all of that because this COVID-19 has set the world back on its heels. And we've got to work hard, and we continue to work for the people. We continue to look forward, and as I say to people, and look up. Why do I do that? Because it's funny, when we are in stressful situations, anxiety, and we all know, and maybe some of us in this legislature have experienced fear, and I say to people, do not live in fear. Because if you live in fear, you can be controlled. Rather, as a government, we have put forth guidelines to help people, to take away that anxiety, some of that fear. The guidelines themselves are put in place to keep people safe. Premier Ford has talked about the importance and emphasizes day in and day out the importance of maintaining, health and safety of all Ontarians. Now, to some people, they might say, he's not moving fast enough. And other people would say, boy, slow down. You move too fast. There was a song in there. I know. And if those of you who know me, everything's a song. Everything's a song. Thank you to the member from, oh golly, from Windsor to Tecumseh. From Windsor to Tecumseh, yes. And I, see, we have a lot of fun with that. It's because we're vintage. Same vintage, and so on. So again, I look at this COVID-19 was unplanned. We as a government still need to proceed with getting business done. We can't let COVID-19 keep us back on our heels. Oh, has it knocked us back a bit? You bet it has. And for the opposition, your mandate is to hold the government accountable. I get that. Because from your vantage point, when you look across the aisle, you see an eagle. Watch the government with an eagle eye. I said eagle, not evil. There is a difference. But we on this side, when we look across at the opposition and we look upwards, we see an owl. Which means we have to create legislation, hopefully with everyone's help, but there will be differences, and we get that. But we have to exercise wisdom in our decision making. Unfortunately, one size does not fit all. And I would caution people, during COVID, I told people, do not wear stretchy pants, a one size fits all. Because when you get back into the regular clothes, you're going to realize, oops, I might be carrying a COVID quarter pounder or two, or maybe three. Listen, in times like this, if you do not have a sense of humor, what do you have? What do you have? Humor will also help to get those endorphins flowing. And that's healthy. That's healthy. So golly, I mean, when I look at things and I talk about the current situation, we're all here, we want to get business done. But I want to go back to the Thursday sittings that the amendment is really addressing as well, because I don't believe I mentioned it. Because when we have Thursday sittings, all of us in this legislature know and realize that's also an opportunity for private members' business, PMBs as we call it. And the member from London West spoke earlier about the member from Niagara Falls who has a PMB. Well, I looked at the schedule, and he's not scheduled till November. There's also been, though, there's been a total of 9 other PMBs that have been waived for right now. Mine was one of them because of the cancellation. The House not sitting. The House not sitting. I'm okay with that because here's the other thing. There are other members in this legislature, those who maybe had their PMBs waived for now, because when we come back, that opportunity will exist. But in addition to that, there isn't the Legislative Council here to help us create proper legislation for private members' bills. That's problematic, very problematic. And we have to kind of still go in order. So, that's one of the reasons why, I support what my government House leader says, and what we say as a government is that we can't sit on Thursdays. We can get done in 3 days, which you might think it would take 4 days. We have important legislation that still needs to be brought forward. And 4 of those legislations include Bill 156, which in fact, it's all about security from trespass and protecting Food Safety Act 2020. And it's going to be studied in the Standing Committee on General Government. In my writing, that is critical. That bill is extremely critical. I'm not downplaying that it's not critical in your ridings either. But I want to suggest something to you, or share something with you. My area is fairly rural. We have a lot of dairy cattle. We have a lot of beef cattle. And, of course, chickens, hog, all of that. A lot of pig farmers. But I remember I have actually visited, on several occasions, a mink farm. Now, I don't know if anybody here's ever had a chance of visiting a mink farm before or not. It's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. See these cute little critters. But by the way, don't put your finger in to pet them. They have sharp teeth. But what happens? You get these animal advocates. And these are farmers, mink farmers, that rely, they're providing for their family, they're generating revenue, they're helping the economy. And then you get these animal advocates that will poach, or they'll come in late at night and open up all the cages and allow these helpless minks to escape into where? And they become roadkill, or they become a meal for coyotes. We have a lot of coyotes in our area. Well, that's no way either. So again, this bill needs to get passed, not just for that reason, but also for the fact that it's part of the food chain. And we need to ensure that, we have food. You hear a lot about individuals who are, and you've seen signs, I'm sure, in your ridings, where people have said, a hero lives here. Well, God bless him. Really. Those are people who have put their lives on the line, especially in the early goings of COVID-19, to care for those people who are sick, taking the necessary precautions through personal protective equipment to care for these people. Have some died? Yes. Tragic. The initial modeling numbers were huge. But I think we've all come to realize that those modeling numbers are also way out. Fortunately, way off. And there's a lot of reasons that we could attribute that to, part of which I think We have to owe it to the 14 million people in the province of Ontario who 95% of them said, you know what, I'm going to take the necessary precautions. I don't know if it's going to affect me or not, and therefore I will follow the guidelines that the government has laid down for us to keep us all safe. Now, maybe initially, for a couple of weeks, people thought, this is kind of cool. I'm home. I can spend time with my family. But we also know the drawbacks of being home way too long, because a lot of people are running out of money. The provincial government, in conjunction with the federal government, are working to provide funds for people who have been laid off, unemployed. What about those who aren't eligible for EI, employment insurance? The sole proprietors, so to speak. You know, you think about that. What do they do? Well, there is that CERB program that the federals are offering. Now, I believe that's only for 4 months. But let's hope that by the time that ends, we'll be back on track. And we won't be on our heels. We'll be leaning forward on the balls of our feet, ready to run forward, to pick up the baton from where we left off and to keep moving. We've got to have hope. We've got to be able to project hope for people, not doomsday. And I think it's really, really imperative for not just the government, but for all sides. Don't project a picture of doom. Project a picture of hope. Because that's what people hold on to, especially in times like this. It's vital, it's critical, it's imperative that's what happens. So again, part of the amendment that the member from London West brought forward, okay, my understanding is to eliminate all the committee hearings. We need those committee hearings. We do. And the reason why we need them is because we have important legislation. And you'll agree that it is important legislation. You may not agree with everything in all those bills. Fair enough. But it's important legislation that we get passed so that we can move forward and we can get the economy going and we can get people back to work. We can get people healthy. And we can ensure that we have the food chain in place to take care of people as well. There's many other aspects, the other bills that we talked about as well. I only talked about Bill 156, but the smarter and stronger justice is important. I think everyone in this place would agree that the justice system's broken. There's got to be a way to expedite hearings and get things moving in the right direction rather than let it drag on, drag on, drag on. We talk about building transit faster. I can't wait for Chatham, Ontario to have its first subway. Okay, I might be waiting a while. But the point is, we've got to get people moving. We've got to be able to figure out ways to help, whether it be, GO trains, or it be subways, or via rail, or I don't care what it is, but we've got to keep people moving and cut down maybe on the congestion. That bill is critical. And then, of course, Minister of Health, the Honourable Christine Elliott spoke about Bill 175, connecting people to home and community care. When I kind of listened to what she had to say, I would interpret it as there's four main pillars. One was the prevention and health promotion. We could talk ad nausea, no pun intended, with regards to what that really means. It's also pillar 2 talks about the fact that we as a government over 10 years is going to be investing $27 billion, that's with a B, $27 billion in hospital infrastructure projects. Why? Because we need them. And a lot of our hospitals right now, are failing. The bricks are literally falling off the building. They're overcrowded. We need new equipment because we have very, very intelligent doctors, and in the science side of things, it's critical that we provide the best form of hospital care, health care for the people of Ontario. So I will be voting against this particular amendment brought forward by the NDP. I appreciate, what they were thinking about, but again, I stand strong, with what we want for summer sittings. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Further debate.